Benfica Podcast is one of the founding members of Benfica Independent. Benfica Independent is an independent platform made by fans for fans. And in it, you can find our podcast, along with many other podcasts, along with articles of opinion, video segments, and much, much more. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/Benfica Independent, with exclusive contents for our patrons.
Hasta que no estás aquí dentro no sabes la grandeza de este equipo. Sí, es un club que tiene una grandeza que no se comprende si no estás aquí dentro.
São de uma magia única, benfiquista, que só nós sentimos assim. Por muitos desgostos que possamos ter, valores mais altos se levantam. E o valor mais alto que se levanta em termos futebolísticos chama-se Benfica.
Quero o Benfica intimidar o adversário. Quero o manto sagrado entrar com vocês em qualquer estado e assustados, pá! É isso que eu quero!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica podcast. My name is Alfredo Fumaças. Here we are. Another night, another podcast, as Steve Santos likes to say. With me, as always, Cristiano Oliveira. Como é que é, amigo? Tudo bem?
Alfredinho! Não tá tudo bem, mas tá tudo bem. I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, hey, about 2 minutes ago, it was all messed up. 2 minutes later, tá tudo bem, meu
Tá
amigo.
tudo
You know what I
bem.
mean? Everything is alright.
Tá
You
tudo
know?
bem.
Tudo bem, como diz o nosso amigo.
Tutto bene, como o nosso amigo Patrick Kendrick likes to say. Tutto bene.
Patrick. Grande abraço, amigo.
With us also, as part of the crew, the normal crew that you're used to seeing, Dave de Oliveira. What's happening, Dave?
What is going on, guys? We got the Freddy's already active in the chat. Was looking like it was going to be a very deep and personal therapy session, but things turned around on Sunday, so we're on the lighter mood here. If you couldn't tell already.
Yeah. Look, we got a shitty game and we got an okay game that is é melhor resultado do que a exibição, right, Chris? Wouldn't you agree?
1,000%. But I mean, that's just my personal feelings on it. But at the same time, I'm wondering what angle are you asking me that question from? I mean, are you a portista? Are you a sportingista? Why are you?
Am I a portista?
I just said it. I think that's the one I started. Are you portista, sportingista?
Yeah, one of those.
How are you going to ask that question on the Benfica podcast? I mean, you can't be bringing any shenanigans up in here.
No shenanigans.
But to answer your question, yeah, at the end of the day, look, we say this. We have to be frank. We absolutely have to be honest and frank. I try to be as honest as possible week after week on this podcast, whether you agree with me or not. I try my very best. It sucks, but it's all I got. It's all que posso dar. For many of the years when we get these negative results against our arch rivals, we come out here and we hoot and holler and we scream and we're frustrated and the whole nine, and we just bitch and moan of how, man, sometimes all it takes is just to get the 3 points. It doesn't matter how you get it against these guys. Against our rivals, we scratch, crawl, do what we have to do, lick, punch, kick, kiss, do whatever we got to do to get the. And now, that's exactly what we did in this past game, and we're all unhappy. I mean, we can't have it both ways. Look, I'm one of those people. I wasn't unhappy. And I'll get into that as we get here onto the podcast. But I think there is a moment to celebrate. There is a moment to take things into consideration. There is a moment to be happy and joyful of the way that this club fought to the very end and got a result. I mean, we're talking about in a span of 5 minutes going from being 6 points down to being level. And not just level, top of the table.
Yeah.
Top of the table, lads. So, I mean, there's obviously some positives, and we should absolutely take a moment to enjoy that.
Yeah.
And there's also the other side of things, and I'm pretty sure we'll get into that. But I just wanted to, let everybody know, at least in my thoughts, that I was one of those sourpusses for a quick second, and then Hugo and a lot of other guys I spoke to made me realize that, hey, man, sometimes we got to enjoy the good ones. Got to enjoy these moments. Could always be worse. So here I am. I'm trying to be positive Cristiano again, Dave. I'm trying to bring him back. Positive Cristiano's been around for much this season, but I think he's making a comeback tonight after a great victory against our arch rivals. The positive Cristiano is back, ladies and gentlemen. For now, I can't guarantee in 2 minutes, but right now it's pretty positive.
Yeah, before we get going, Freddy's, let me say hello to all the Freddy's. Chico Marcelino, Pedro dos Santos, Bruno Teixeira, Diogo Reis, those two guys were here earlier. Red Baron, Flavio Ferreira, Liberal, and SLB Tube. What up from Toronto? Here we are, episode 500.
Smash the like button.
Smash the like button. That's right. I forgot to say that.
And leave comments just about myself. The other Dave and Alfredo don't say nice about this.
506 is what we're up to tonight. We'd love for the show to be all about the derby, but unfortunately, we got the Real Sociedad game to talk about also, and after that, then we'll get into the derby. But we'll skim over the Real Sociedad game because really, there's not much to talk about there, right? Because I think that we all knew going into this game that it was going to be hard for Benfica, and it required an effort by Benfica that we haven't seen, and understanding what Real Sociedad has been doing both domestically and in Champions League was gonna be a tall order for Benfica. But let's get right into that game, right? So I'll give you the lineup. Trubin was in goal, Silva, Otamendi, Morato. The three center backs, João Mário and Tino in the middle, Neves, Auschness on the sides of the midfield, Di Maria, Cabral, and Rafa. No surprises here. Perhaps the biggest surprise, it is really a surprise, right? João Neves on the right, when we all been clamoring here, and especially Cristiano has been clamoring that João Neves cannot, for the love of the Lord, leave the center of the park. He's too much of an influential player to leave the center of the park, and yeah, we'll put him on the right, and we make him almost useless. Certainly, we understand the logic behind it, but as we saw this weekend, and as we've seen week in and week out, when João Neves is in the middle of the park, there's a whole lot of difference that happens there in terms of the way he holds the ball, the way he's able to chase guys down. So really didn't understand, and let's skim right through this game. 6 minutes, 11 minutes, 21 minutes. 21 minutes in, we're already 3-0. There was people that shut their TV off. My father was one of them. And I think if you're watching the game, I don't think there's you can't have an argument against that, right? After seeing 3-0, is, man, I don't want to watch this anymore. But certainly, not a very good performance by Benfica. We were poor.
This PK, the save by Trubin. Yeah. I mean, Alfredo, you're leaving out crucial pieces. All I know is that, as you mentioned, 20 minutes in, or a little bit over 20 minutes in, and guys, I'm sorry. And for those of you my age and Alfredo's age and just a few years younger, Dave, I think you're okay with this. But for those of you our age, I apologize right now. I actually suggest you probably mute this for the next 10 seconds. But when I saw this onslaught, Alfredo, my mind brought me back to Celta. I said, "Pura amor de Deus, man! Not again, not another freaking like chapada in Spain, bro." I just did not want to go through that. So luckily, the boys didn't get to that level, but nonetheless, man, Alfredo had me panicking. I mean, for a few minutes, man.
Really, it should have been that level. It could have easily been 5-6-0 before halftime, right? There was 2 goals called back for offside and a penalty off that hit the post there. So there's easily your 6 goals within the first half. It definitely had those Celta vibes, Cristiano. I'm sure you weren't the only one thinking that way.
Yeah, and I think maybe the thought process is if we shut the TV right now, maybe they won't score anymore.
But then Roger Schmidt.
You believe that?
to finally realize again, maybe somebody, these coaches nowadays, they wear the little earpiece. Maybe somebody played him the portion of the podcast from last week's podcast when I said I don't understand what the hell he's doing with this 3-4-3. It makes no sense. And then he saved the day. You ready? He saved the day by bringing in Jurasic. Times in 2 minutes, but nonetheless, look, as bad as he played, it saved the day because it stabilized things back there. Because Benfica for a few minutes didn't know, bro. It was terrible for good 10, 15, 20 minutes. It looked like the little kids at the park.
Yeah.
Just chasing them. Nobody knew what the hell they were doing. They were so disorganized. And credit to Sociedad, who had the knowledge and knew how to set this up and knew how to take advantage of Benfica. And they look, credit to them. But we were
shit.
sprawling. What the hell we were doing?
Humiliated.
So, the great Jurassic Park stabilized things for Benfica.
Who would have thought?
You go look at it, but it's not even would have thought. Because if you look, forget the thought. This is the proof is in the pudding. Go look at his stats, and they were horrendous. And so if you didn't watch the game and you're listening to the podcast here and you're saying he's on some good shit, the guy's numbers, how did he stabilize? But ladies and gentlemen, he did. He stabilized it because once Benfica switched to the 4 at the back again, kind of felt like, okay, now we know how to defend again. All right. But yeah, it kind of calmed things down. And he was not good, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So that goes to show you how bad things must have been before.
Yeah, and the team comes out of the locker room at the half, and it seems that they got a little bit of a spark behind them, that they were trying to do something. And I think that maybe the first 10 minutes of the second half, Benfica really had the upper hand in terms of the initiative that they had. They ended up getting a goal from Rafa on the assist from Otamendi. But you could also say that Real Sociedad came out of the locker room and said, well, we're up 3-0. We could have been up more. And if we keep possessing and we keep controlling the ball and resting with the ball at our feet, eventually Benfica will open up and we'll get another goal. And I think that's what they did. They didn't have to press on the accelerator too much, but all they had to do is get some more of that possession and start passing the ball around the park to Benfica chasing. Yeah, because
they, with the exception, as you mentioned, the first 10 minutes of the second half, they were always control of the game. You know what I mean? So they didn't really have to come out of their shell. They were very comfortable with the 3-0 lead. They didn't think that Benfica could cause any serious danger on the other side, and it was another walk in the park for them. Look, just want to mention, Sheik Marcelino mentions, I also had Celta vibes. Eric Amaral says, smash the like button, ladies. Don't forget. Red Baron SOB says, yup, I had cold sweats for a while. So as you can see, these guys are more like our age. And if you didn't think of Celta watching that game,
definitely.
God bless you. That means you didn't go through that, and you're a lucky one. You're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, it was definitely Celta vibes.
I was shell shocked there. Like for the first 20 minutes, I didn't know what the hell happened to us. I didn't know whether to be upset, to cry, to laugh. I was shell shocked the way that Celta just kept on pushing at us. And at the end of the day, you just have to laugh, because what the hell are you going to do? You're not going to waste any energy on how the team performed in that first half. So, God, I was shell shocked on how bad we were.
It was an absolute embarrassment.
Yeah,
it's one of those moments that goes into the history books, and not the good ones. The shame on you, on you.
Right next to the Basel game.
That Roger Schmidt had not the audacity, but due to his decision making, João Neves looked like a bum for a few minutes there. And that is embarrassing. That is a crime in itself. He should be whipped 100 lashes for having the poor little guy, who is the one guy that it's just become a common theme, is just to sit here and just João Neves, man of the match. João Neves, like, didn't even play. João Neves is just, the dude is, and for those the first 20, 25, it looked like he was lost. It looked like he never played soccer in his life, and it was just. It's embarrassing. Roger Schmidt should be ashamed of himself. Yeah. And if he would have listened to the Benfica podcast, he wouldn't have gone over there with that dumbass system and made my boy look dumb.
Yeah.
So he should be ashamed.
Yeah. So look, we're both Real and Inter have qualified for the next stage. Benfica will now have to compete with Salzburg
for that Europa League spot. And Cristiano, this is something that myself, you, and Hugo have been discussing, and you and Hugo have very different opinions in terms of Europa League. And I agree with you, right? And the argument is, if we go to the Europa League, and as a result of now playing more games during the week, is this detrimental to our title chances? Because we're struggling as is. I know we're in first place, but we're not playing the best football in the league, domestically in Europe, right? Does now playing in Europe a second game, and usually these games are on Thursday also, does that affect our chances to be champions and to get that coveted automatic spot in next year's Champions League and that 100 million prize bonus that we would get if we were to qualify directly? And Cristiano, and I'll let you talk about it, but
ask the question though. Ask the question. With the question, pose a question.
The question is,
do you prefer for Benfica to continue in European competition, being Europa League, or do I just want them to bow out?
That's the question.
Which way do I lean?
That's the question.
So my answer to that is, for those of you that listen to the Benfica podcast over the years, you understand and you know. I don't have to prove nothing to you guys because you guys have heard me more than one occasions tell you that Benfica, to me, it's Champions League above anything else, right? Benfica needs to always be amongst the big boys and taking on the big boys and playing them eye to eye and doing everything they can to win games in this competition, because this is where the real football is played. But I think that there's times we have to really look at ourselves and realize what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. And I don't think Benfica has shown at any point this season. I mean, if you really want to go to X's and O's, right? I don't think they've shown much since Enzo Fernandez left. They've not been the same team, right? That guy, that should be Roger Schmidt, number one acquisition. If he gets appointed Germany national coach, do everything he can to convert Enzo Fernandez into a German citizen, because my man made Roger Schmidt look like a damn genius. But again, get back to the point at hand. Benfica has not played well. I don't think Benfica has a team deep enough or good enough to make a serious run at the Europa League.
Yeah.
And the other part of me that what really, which sounds crazy, but what really has me doubting this whole thing and fearing the whole thing is, I don't want Benfica to make a run in Europa League, make a quarterfinal or semifinal run, Europa League guys, and try to understand me here, because I would never root against Benfica. But I don't want them to make a quarterfinal, semifinal run in Europa League, then not win that league anyway, and then kind of mask the problems that this club has had, mask the acquisition of players, right? Mask the horrible decision making that's been made throughout this year, because but we made a Europa League run, and like it kind of just throws all the negatives from this season under a rug, because it kind of looks like a good run throughout a European competition. So my thing is, I want Benfica to focus, and I think it's the first time I've ever said this on this podcast. I've never said this, Alfredo, right? Because I've always wanted Benfica to worry about the Champions League, but due to the fact that things have changed in Portugal, where now you get the one automatic into the Champions League next year with the new format, and then on top of that, it brings along with it the 100 million bonus, 100 million European competition fee, whatever it is that the clubs get. And I fear that whomever, and especially Benfica, I care less about the other two, but I fear if Benfica does not throw all their eggs in one basket and make sure that they come away and win this damn campeonato to assure themselves a place in next year's Champions League, assure themselves that $100 million bag, because that's the only way I think Benfica is going to be able to hold on to one of the Neves or Silva. So
yeah,
Benfica can't mess around. Honestly, Alfredo, I fear that Benfica around worried about some damn, away match at freaking, whomever, Antwerp, is going to slip up in the campeonato, because they're not deep enough to compete at two fronts. And then before we know it, man, we're not in the Champions League, and now we're selling players. We're not getting the 100 million. I mean, it's going to take a while. And like, do you guys really have any confidence in the people that's bringing in players?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Let me.
like Hugo said to me. I'm sorry, afraid to make it quick. Like Hugo said to me, well, you forget if you don't get the 100 million from one way, you get another one. Because if you sell Neves, you get 100 million. Okay, but do you have any confidence that they'll be making great acquisitions with that 100 million based on what we've seen this year? I don't.
Yeah. Let me pose the question to the chat. So, would you relinquish the Europa League, understanding that by relinquishing the Europa League, you can focus on the league domestically, and as a result, you have a better chance to win the championship? Or would you say, nah, fuck that. We should be in Europa League each time. Let's fight on all fronts. A competition is a competition. What do you guys in the chat think? What would you prefer? Would you prefer the relinquishing of the Europa League, understanding that could put you in a better position to win a title domestically, or would you continue in the Europa League, understanding also realistically that the talent on this squad, and let me say talent coupled with the deficiencies we have seen from Roger Schmidt in terms of the way he's coached this team, in terms of the way he has this team playing, and understanding that if the team is like this and has been like this since August, you can even go even further back, but let's give the team a clean slate in August. Understanding that if you haven't improved from August until now, what's different in February that's going to make you so much stronger in Europe that you can make a deep run? What do you guys think in terms of those two questions? I'll give you guys some time to go on the chat, and then I'll read some of the comments. But Dave, some stats on this game so we can move on.
Yeah, before the stats, just to piggyback on that, I don't mind that logic. Obviously, you want Benfica to advance in any competition that they're playing against, or they're playing in, but I would want the club to come out with that message that, listen, we're going to focus this all on the we're going to put all our eggs in the league this year and make those points about winning the championship so that we can get that 100 million guaranteed next year. I'm fine if they come out with and say that, but I don't think the club would say that, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't have that. I think we're in the minority in this thought of packing it up and not competing and just throwing all our eggs in the Portuguese league. But I'm fine if they come out and say it, but I don't believe that the club would ever come out and blatantly say that they were not going to try to qualify for Europa League. Stats here on the game: Benfica eliminated at the group stage mark for the 11th time in their 18 previous Champions League group stage appearances. Benfica have now have more losses this season with 5 than they did the entirety of last season. That's how it shows how much of a drastic change we have from last year, where we had 4 losses all season in all competitions, and we're not even through the midway point of November, and we've already got more losses than we did all of last season.
Yeah. Let me so we got some mixed comments here in the chat, and let me read them. Tony Fig says Benfica thinks you got a Europa League porque os jogadores ganham muito dinheiro e é bom para o Benfica o nome. So Benfica has to play Europa League because there's some money that could be earned from the Europa League, albeit not the same as Champions League, and also it adds to the team's reputation, right? Nunu M says, I'll take Europa League because we will go direct to UCL if we would win it. And Nunu, I'll challenge by saying, go look at the Europa League groups as they stand right now, and I could probably assure you that there's maybe 7 teams in the Europa League that Benfica would struggle against. So it's not.
I've got them open
Wait,
if you want to go through them.
You don't even have to go through. You could go right after Dave, but I'm just saying you don't even have to go through that. What I'm going off is based on how this team is played. What confidence have they? What confidence do you have that they can perform at that level? That's where I'm going with, guys. Now, if you tell me Benfica's going to go to the Europa League and win the Europa League, fuck it, let's go. Forget the Campeonato Português. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, how much confidence do you have that they will happen? They've been atrocious.
Yeah. And that's the thing, guys. The context is the team has not been good. So the idea that, if we win the Europa League, we'll go straight to the Champions League, which is, from what I understand, it's still something that happens, right? I think it's unrealistic to think that you go into the Europa League the way you've been playing, and regardless that we're fast-forwarding a few months to February and maybe the team is in a different spot, I just don't think that the team is going to be in a different spot, that much of a different spot from what we see it today. There'll probably be minor improvements. There'll be some consistent performances. There'll be a little bit of a momentum, but not to the point that you go into the Europa League and you smash everyone. Let me read a few other comments here. Chico Morslina says, I understand, Chris, but it goes against everything I believe. Like, for example, have many cases of teams that had bad internal league performances and have gone ahead and won Europe, with Sevilla being probably the classic case. SLB Tube says, I'll go for the Europa League. Also Benfica says no relinquish of Europa as winning.
Do you go to the Europa League and then not win that and not win the Campeonato Português, or do you want to just focus on Campeonato Português and win the Campeonato Português?
Well,
it's not go to the Europa League and win the Europa League. No shit, I'll take that too.
Yeah, I'll take the Europa League over if we had a team that could realistically win the Europa League. I'm all in. I'd rather have a Europa League than the domestic title, to be honest with you, and I think a lot of you would also. What else? Carl Zamar saying there's only one way. You have to compete on every opportunity. At no point in time does a team get better by sacrifice of defeat. I understand. Liberal says, I'd like to see them in Europa League. I think more opportunities they have to try and build chemistry is important. Red Baron says the team is not mentally strong, lacks the confidence. I'm sorry?
I was just going to say, Aussie Benfica also does Europa winner get Champions League. Yeah, the Europa League winner gets automatic qualification into the Champions League. But
yeah, Red Baron saying the team is not mentally strong, lacks the confidence to even make it there. We're not playing like last year. Let's concentrate on winning the league and the cup.
That's basically my same thought process.
Yeah.
It's that we're not playing good football. We haven't been good since Enzo left.
Yeah.
Call a spade a spade. I don't see this team all of a sudden turning things around where Cabral scoring 30 goals and Chiquinho and João Mario become beasts again. It's just been a
Chiquinho becoming beast.
Yeah, Jurassic is not going to turn into a beast. You know what I mean? I just think that there's too many doubts on this club right now.
No,
and what I'm afraid of is that you waste too much time and energy into a competition that you are most likely not going to win it at all, where the easiest, I guess, how do you put it, like, apple to reach at on a tree, the easiest one to pick is the Campeonato Português. It's the one more accessible. So concentrate on that.
Yeah, and
come away with the 100 million, come away with a Champions League guaranteed spot, go into the off season and make the proper adjustments that were obviously failures this season and build a team that can finally go and compete at these levels, as opposed to being in the Champions League, having played 4 games and lost all 4 games. But look, things did improve against Real Sociedad, guys. We scored a goal.
Yeah.
Wait, before if the only counterpoint to not qualifying or not being in another European competition for the second half of the year, does that lead us into a January where either one, we're not making any additions, or even worse, where we have to make some subtractions because we've got less games to play, and now players where we don't have enough spots or minutes for some of these players on our bench, or even worse than that, have to sell a João Neves, like a shark comes in January and picks him off from us too.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question, but look, I understand what you guys are saying in the chat, and I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to be a little bit realistic in terms of this team's potential. Carl's saying it's a loser mentality. You compete for everything. You may not win, but you compete for every single one. And I understand because that's the fabric, right? That's the Benfiquista fabric. That's the Benfica fabric. We want to compete on every front, but we also have to be realistic, right? If at some point we know that we're gonna run out of gas, I don't know. It's something that you have to give some thought. And I'm not saying that the team is going to deliberately lose or hand this off and say, look, fuck, screw this. The fact of the matter is that you got a Real Sociedad that's already qualified. You got an Inter that's already qualified. That we don't know how those two teams are going to handle the Salzburg game, right? We know that at the end of match day 6, we will have a match against Salzburg. Whether we get there in a position that if we win, we will leapfrog them, it's a different story, right? So we don't even know. I mean, everybody's saying, yeah, we can still make third. Understanding that you're thinking that you're going to beat the Salzburg team. You didn't beat them in Lisbon, right? You're going to have to go to Austria to play them. Who's to say?
It was 2-0, right? It was 2-0 in Lisbon.
Yeah. Right? Who's to say we're gonna beat them?
We got to beat them at least 3-1
or 3-0.
Well, it depends if we get any points. If we get any points. Right, between now and then, or if they get in one, because right now they're on 1 point, we're on 0. No, they're on 3 points.
They're on 3.
They're on 3 points. We're on 0. If Real Sociedad gets any more points on the remaining 2 games, and we don't get any more points, we're done. We're done. If we lose against Inter, yes, then it becomes a situation where you got to win and you got to score goals. And I'm not too convinced that Benfica right now has that ability.
Skip some messages, Alfredo. There's a couple of
go ahead, Chris.
Benfica, and he says probably important for the Club World Cup. I think everything I've seen, I think Benfica makes it, even if they don't go through. I think you need like Man United to win the Champions League in order for Benfica not to make it. I think Benfica makes it as the last place team, 9th place. To qualify into the World Cup. And then you see Tony Fig, he says, Cristiano, queres a Liga Europa ou Taça de Cerveja? Again, guys, I think you're misunderstanding the question or my point here. And this is why I wasn't planning on talking about this on a podcast, because I did think you guys weren't going to understand it. I'm in no way, shape, or form saying, don't quero ganhar a Liga Europa. Right? Of course. You give me the Campeonato or the Liga Europa. Give me the Liga Europa. I don't think this team is good enough to compete in the Liga Europa. This team has not played well for months. At no point throughout this whole season, forget last season, right? Let's just go from July or August on. This team has not played. You guys really have confidence that Benfica is going to go on into the Europa League and win the Europa League. My fear is that you waste too much time and energy in the Europa League, a competition that I don't think we are strong enough to win it. And again, I understand the ball is round. 11 versus 11 left feet, 11 right feet. I get it. I get all that stuff. I don't think this club is good enough to win the Europa League. And my fear is that by wasting our time and energy in that competition, we take our eye off the ball, we slip up in the Taça, in our Campeonato, and before we know it, Sporting is running away with a 6, 7, 8 point lead, and we don't match up. And now what? Now we got to go into a qualifier, if we even get lucky into it.
Yeah.
And then what if we trip up in a qualifier, which we just did 3 years ago, guys? Don't forget, against PAOK. We just tripped up in the terceira eliminatória da qualificação para a Liga dos Campeões. So now you missed the Champions League. Now what, guys? Now you're worried about making up 20 million, 100 million. Now you're going to sell everybody. You ain't buying anybody. And now you're just going to go back to sad days of hoping and praying that you some way, somehow bring a coach in, because if Benfica doesn't win the Campeonato, guy Roger Schmidt is gone. He's probably gone before that anyway, but he's gone. So it's going to be a new coach, new players, and he's just going to be running that cycle once again. And so that's my fear. It's no way, shape, or form do I want to win the Europa. Of course I do. I don't think the club, this team, as it is right now, is good enough to win it. That's all I'm saying,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
Try to
but look,
understand.
I get everybody's point. You know, we need to compete. We need to be in competitions, but at what cost? Understanding the importance of winning the league this year. That's all I'm saying. The money involved, because Cristiano and I have had this conversation. The team that doesn't make the Champions League, and there's only two spots, right? There's the direct spot and there's the pre-qualifier, right? I don't think anybody else goes in.
That's it. That's it.
There's only two spots, right? The team that does not make this Champions League out of the three teams is going to be hurting.
Well, not just three. Now you got Braga that's in the mix too.
I completely understand, Chris.
So
But
the
in
two
terms of
teams,
the three
two
teams, right? In terms of Sporting, Porto, and Benfica, and I'm not excluding Braga by any means, because if Braga doesn't make the Champions League, they're going to stay as is, right?
Where
Because that's their level, right? But how impactful would this be to a Sporting or a Porto not making the Champions League and getting that bag? Very. And same thing to Benfica. And Benfica has the players to sell, right? So I guess you could close some of those gaps, those holes, those financial holes with the selling. But the selling involves short term and involves giving up players. If you perform well, I would like to think that there's a good chance that we keep either Silva or Neves at the end of the season. Right? I think. I hope, at least.
Even one. You don't make the Champions League, they're both gone.
Right.
So would you rather have 100 million and João Neves, or would you rather have 180 million and no João Neves and no no Silva?
Right.
And then you got to invest that 100. Well, you don't even have to invest that 180 because you're gonna have to pay off some of the investments you made this year. But then you got to invest some of that money into what? Another Jurasek? Another Cabral?
Yeah.
There's probably a scenario where we do finish first and they're both gone either way.
Yeah, it's possible.
I don't see how that we could probably hold on.
I mean, depends on the values.
both of them.
Depends on the values that will be offered. I think that it'll be very hard that those guys go for any less than 80 each, if not more.
Carlos Amaro, Carlos today, he's bugging.
He's bugging. No, I understand. Yeah. I understand what he's saying.
He said, because I don't. He says, if there's even a modicum that's a sense that Rodgers surrenders in any game, that would kill his credibility. I mean, dude,
yeah, of course.
Dude surrender. He surrendered on Sunday, whatever, Saturday, Sunday. When they scored, I think he shitted his pants. You see, he let it go. He didn't even know how they did it. I mean, come on. But and then Carlos, the next comment. That's why I said he's bugging. He goes, let it cost everything. I don't see the alternative as a viable option. You lose so much money by cowardice anyway. And then he says the team was never good enough to win the Champions League either. Why didn't we give up sooner? Really? I mean, you could advance and make money, and therefore, because we know Benfica is not going to win it. But you don't make the same sums of money in the Europa League that you do in the Champions League. You can make a semifinal run in the Europa League, and you're still going to have to sell freaking the João Neves. You make a semifinal run in the Europa League, in the Champions League, you could keep João Neves and you could keep Antonio Silva. There's a difference, guys. Let's know the difference.
Yeah, and look, we're not saying that we're right or you guys are wrong. It's just it's a different perspective of looking at the team's future. So that's all that is, right? We have to be cognizant of this. And look, things may have well go the way we want it, right? Because if Benfica continues to perform the way they've been performing, they're gonna have a hard time and getting that third place in the Champions League, right? So if that happens, then all bets are off, right? And we go our own way and we focus on the domestic championship, certainly. But talking about shit and pens, that's a perfect segue to go to the Sporting game. And I'll start by saying this, right? And when I saw the lineup, and I think that the same way that Ruben Amorim saw it, right? And the lineup usually comes out an hour before kickoff, and Benfica put it out quite a few minutes earlier than an hour. And as you look at this, at the way the lineup was announced, right? Ruben, Auschner, Silva, Otamendi, Muratu, Tino, Neves, Di Maria, Rafa, João Mario, and Musa, you're looking at this lineup and you're thinking 3 center back again, right? So Amorim certainly had 2 plans for this game, right? He mentioned on a pregame conference that he thought that Benfica was going to go back to the 4-4-2, but I don't know if he believed it. But he had to plan for that. But when you look at this and you see Silva, Otamendi, and Muratu, the first thing that you think, and any logical human being is going to think, is that there's a 3 center back set up here. Who would have thought that Muratu was going to play left back? I don't think anybody knew until we actually saw the way the team lined up. So I think that Ruben Amorim got caught a little bit by surprise, and I think that explains also Benfica's dominance in the first 20 minutes because it was just that, right? We're playing in our stadium. We're playing in front of our crowd. We should go after these 3 points because it's 3 points that will put us in the lead. So let's get after this game. But I think that Amorim wasn't prepared for Benfica. And after those 20 minutes, he made a couple adjustments, and Sporting was able to kind of balance out the game, and they started playing their own game. Their own, we had Rafa hit the crossbar, with João Mario with that chip that Tino missed on the far post. Truben makes 2 really good saves that kept the game at 0. And then at the end of the half, Gyökeres with that one shot. He didn't even touch the ball. It was just he ran onto the ball and he hit it. And I think that he caught Antonio Silva by surprise and Truben by surprise because he shot it right away. Sporting goes into the locker room 1-0. The truth is that the teams could have very well have gone into the locker room tied, but I think that Benfica got caught on the short end of the stick there. Team comes out in a second half, and the second half of Benfica tried to play again, and then there was the ejection of Gonçalo Inácio in the 51st minute. And that changed everything, right? Because Sporting, with one less day of rest after playing the Europa League, now has to be more conservative in terms of the way they approach the game. They had to lower their lines. They had to make sure that they stayed compact and didn't expose themselves to Benfica. Benfica had a really hard time. What I don't understand is, how does Roger Schmidt read this game, right? Because Sporting goes down to 10 men. In essence, they only have one guy playing up front. How does he keep Muratu in the game, on the field? Why do we need 4 defenders to defend against one guy? And right off the bat, that is a poor read. Then he brings in Cabral for Musa. He brings in Tankstead for Tino, who you may argue that he was already on a yellow card, right? And we didn't really... the same read that he had in terms of, well, why do we need a defensive midfielder, right? Because Sporting now is going to stay more in their half and more, their lines are going to be lowered. But really, we didn't, if it hadn't been for the goal, nobody would have known that Tankstead was even on the field. I just don't understand why Gonçalo Guedes doesn't make an appearance earlier. And when he did make an appearance in the 87th minute, right away he made an impact. All of a sudden, Benfica had a left side. We had to stretch out the Sporting's defense because they were very compact in the middle. We didn't have a left side. With Guedes coming in, now all of a sudden we had a left side. Then we found a way to get Di Maria involved into more of the game because up until that time, up until his shot, I think he wasn't really that much involved in the game. And then we just go at it. We just go at it behind the crowd. We get the one goal by Neves off of an Muratu assist of a set piece, a goal.
That's what I was gonna say. Muratu had a hand in that goal. So
yeah,
you take him out, maybe we don't get. And look, I think what's his name? The coach, Ruben Amorim, said it in his press conference that Muratu, he is not a true left back, but his physicality, his pace, it made him think. I think, Alfredo, just to answer your question, why leave him in the game, especially when they go down to 10. I think maybe Roger thought Sporting is not going to be building up play. They're going to be looking to find Goikers in the box and whatever. And at some point, they're going to bring Paulinho in, who's 6 foot, whatever, striker, a guy that likes to also get in with his head. And he thought maybe one of the taller guy back there to maybe alleviate some of those crosses. I don't know, but that could have been something we can question. But, some of them, I guess at the end of the day, he got the result that he wanted. Like, as I mentioned, Morato got his head on the ball. And then it got back to, what's his name, João Neves, who just, my man's always at the right place at the right time. I'm glad that Trubin didn't attempt to fuck things up and try to get the ball. But yeah, look, just, I asked you last week, I think 2 weeks ago, I didn't understand, and I mentioned it then. It's another one. It's kind of like this whole Europa League conversation. I don't think guys understood what I was saying then. Like, I don't think they understand what I'm saying now, which was like, what's his name? Thiago Villa could have came into that game and scored a hat trick, but I didn't understand the move.
Yeah,
and so, and I questioned it then, and now you see. I think it goes back to what I was saying. Like, the dude's important in such an important Champions League game at the time. Remember, everything was still open. We hadn't lost 4 games yet, so everything was still up in play. And now he doesn't even feature, doesn't even count.
Yeah.
Doesn't even count in a game like this. A guy that could come in and take on defenders. One thing I think I despise the most about watching this game was I don't recall, like, maybe it happened once or twice, but I don't recall any. Right? I might not have been paying attention between talking and BSing. But no Benfica player took on anybody. You didn't see no Benfica player running at defenders. There was nothing. There was nothing. Thiago Villa is a guy that possibly could have done a little bit of that. But again, I'm not sitting here to asking for Thiago Villa to get any more minutes. As I mentioned before, I don't know enough about the kid. But it just makes you scratch your head. Roger, one day he counts, the next day he's on Valpernada. I just don't understand half of these decisions he's making. But look, at the end of the day, he got bailed out, and that's the part I was mentioning right at the beginning of the podcast. Enjoy the moment. But then don't come on here, man, and try to, throw a wool over my head and try to tell me everything's okay. There's a lot of things that you need to look into, a lot of things that need to be changed, a lot of things that need to seriously be considered and have a serious conversation on how you could improve. And look, we're still in first place, goal differential. But Roger has to look at himself in the mirror, and he has to understand how to get the best and how to extract the best out of his players. I don't think he's doing that right now. We got call it what you want. I thought we got lucky. I know you go and people argue me, we were better in the first. At the end of the day, we were down 1-0, 90th minute or 89th minute, whatever it was. We're about to go down 6 points. And the Garra and these players, the guys, the João Neves and even Antonio Silva and Otamendi, the guys that eat relva. We're the only ones on the field that eat relva. Yeah. Everybody else is just there walk. These guys never allow Benfica to lose this game.
Right.
And want to put that on Roger Schmidt's back? Go ahead, do what you got to do. He's the coach. I guess he's pulling all the strings. But there's something seriously not right about this team right now.
Yeah, and you got to look at
sat there on the sideline as we scored. He didn't even.
And the thing is that we have to look at this game, and if Benfica doesn't score these two goals at the end, you got to think that the best period for Benfica was those initial 20 minutes of the first half. In the second half, we struggled to get anything going, with the exception of when Gonçalo Guedes came in and he shook things up, and that was in the 87th minute. What do we do for the rest of the second half?
Was it him shaking things up, or is Sporting packing things in because you got a few more minutes to go?
Could be. Could be.
Look, I have to be fair. Carlos Amaro says, I think it's fair criticism. Calling it a surrender is not. I was being. Estaba seguro, Carlos. You know what I mean? I was just being dumb. He obviously didn't surrender, but, just looked like a guy that's out of questions with his hands in his pockets.
Yeah.
And just, Benfica didn't let him down this time.
Did you guys, and this was something that Steve Santos brought up as we were watching the game, there wasn't a lot of shots of Roger Schmidt on the sideline. We saw a lot more of Ruben Amorim than we saw of Roger Schmidt. And maybe I have to go rewatch the game, and maybe it was something that I was so focused on the game that I didn't really pay attention. But I did notice there wasn't a lot of shots of Roger Schmidt from the cameras.
Only after the goal was scored. Only after the goals were scored. Now that you mention it, because I remember seeing him.
Does anybody recall that
after the goals were scored? But
who's broadcasting the game, guys? I don't know. Who's
BTV.
Oh.
Does anybody remember that?
I want to attract more attention to a guy that was clearly under pressure. Again, Benfica got the 3 points. That's all that matters. It would have been a whole other conversation we'd be having here had they lost 2 games in a row in a manner that they did. But look, luckily they did it. And sometimes you have to be lucky, right? And especially in these games, as I mentioned before, Alfredo, in these games against our rivals, sometimes you want to be lucky than better.
Yeah.
And Estrella went our way. We
Yeah,
we
and
won this game. Sporting is gone 10 games now against Porto and Benfica. Sporting's gone 10 games against Porto and Benfica without a win. So I'd much rather be here on this side celebrating a win, but at the same time, I want to have the notion, and I'm very aware that there's a lot of things that still need to be fixed. And that's the one thing that I was aggravated about the other day is, look, I'm celebrating the victory, but guys, let's keep our eye on the prize and let's realize things aren't right at home.
yeah.
We need to. We got a little break here, another week off for the players. He loves giving guys time off. Another week off. But when the guys come back I think they come back on Friday, but some international still be away, obviously.
Yeah.
But next week, when it's time to go and ciao, let's go. Guys need to get up on their game, and Roger has to do what he has to do. Find a way to get this system, these players to work. I've given them free advice. 4-3-3, Roger.
Yeah.
That's-
Look,
gotta go.
there's a couple things here. If you look at the game in general, you can't say that Benfica didn't deserve the win because of that final push that the team had towards the end of the game. I think that alone the team did enough to go chase the result, and luckily they got it, albeit in a very dramatic fashion. But let's not lose sight of everything that's gone on, and I think that winning this game I think it's great. It's great that we're in first place. I think it's a great mental and psychological boost for this team. Now the question is, are we able to build on this? Are we able to make this a turning point in our season? And now we're going to become a lot more consistent, a lot more solid, a lot more predictable in terms of how is Benfica going to perform each game domestically. And I think that's the biggest question. The international break comes at a time where you may say it's advantageous for Benfica or detrimental for Benfica. For me, I would love to see the team come out and play again this week, so to see if they're able to build on this mental boost. But then you also have guys that are hurt that we need back healthy and be able to give their contribution to the team. So you can look at it both ways. For me, the biggest question is going to be, how do we build up on this, and is this a turning point for the season? I think that's the biggest question right now in ever Benfica's mind, because yes, we won against our eternal rivals, and these games usually stand by themselves in terms of it's not always the team that's in the best moment of form that's going to win games or to win this game. And the game kind of sits in a context by itself. But are we able to get something out of this that will put us on the right path, a path of improvement and a path of much better performances that we haven't seen up until this point? I think that is the biggest question right now in every Benfica's mind. Dave, you got stats? Do you guys have anything else to say about this game? The Musa getting stepped on, and obviously I think there was an advantage play there. It didn't even go to the VAR, and Rafa missed that ball. I think in terms of refereeing, I don't think there's much that you could look at and said, man, that was a poorly officiated game. I actually thought that was one of the better Arturo Soares Dias performances, to be honest with you. But I don't know. Look, a win is a win. A win against Sporting is a much more than a win. And then and winning in a fashion that we did is extremely hurtful for Sporting, because up until that point, playing at Stade de Luz with 10 men ahead for 93 minutes or whatever it was, they have to be really hurt by everything that went down. And I think it's a huge blow for them having to relinquish first place and in the manner that they did. Go ahead, Dave.
First time this season that Benfica was able to come back and win after being down. First time in derby history between Benfica and Sporting that a team has come back from behind to win in extra time. Last time Benfica came down to win after being down in the 90-plus minute came against Gil Vicente in 2013. And one guy that we haven't spoken about, who I feel, I know Sporting had the man advantage, but fuck, we only really got the man advantage once this guy came out, was João Mario. In his last two derbies against Sporting, with him on the pitch, Sporting scored 3 goals in 137 minutes that he was on. Benfica scored nothing, and then the 62 minutes that João Mario came off the pitch in the last 2 games, Benfica scored 4 goals and conceded
Dude,
0. So
that is a great stat.
Could be a meaningless number.
That is a
or
great
could
stat,
be something
bro.
there.
That is a great stat.
But he's been he was god awful once again in this this game, and I know there's ties to Sporting, but I know you would think he's a professional, but his performance just was not there once again.
Talking about
João Mario. He just hasn't been good.
I mean, he actually, there's nothing to sniff around. There's not a doubt about it, because he's been horrible all year.
Yeah.
He's been terrible.
He has not been good. He's not been good. And I think that, once again, Roger's so stubborn that he feels that João Mario needs to play every game.
Look, again, Alfredo, desculpa lá te interromper. But it's like, it's so easy to beat on Roger now as well. And we have to be fair, right? Because, and I'm not, guys, please, I'm in no way, shape, or form defending João Mario. I didn't want him in the first, and he was, look, he helped us win the Campeonato last year. He was really good for 3/4 of the season. You know, he had his merits, whatever. But we're sitting here and like, oh, you know, criticizing Roger for playing João Mario. And I think when David Neres, Coxu, and all those guys are healthy, okay, I understand it. I don't want to see João Mario in the field. But now that the Coxus of the world and the Neres of the world are out of the game, I mean, let's be fair. Would Roger have won with any of us here on Sunday had he played what, Chiquinho instead of João Mario? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's.
Chris,
be
that's
fair,
where I
guys.
was going to go. I was going to ask you, would you rather see Chiquinho or João Mario?
No, I think it's a win-win. I think it's a lose. It's
a lose proposition.
In that one, I don't like João Mario, but I would take João Mario. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not like, my biggest problem with him and the João Mario right now is the fact that the guy plays 86 minutes. That's the biggest problem I got.
Yeah,
I understand it. Like, if Coxu's healthy and he's playing João Mario, and again, and I'm also a guy that's been on here and got criticized because I don't think Coxu's been as advertised, right? But if he's benching Coxu, if he's benching David Neres like he was for the most part last year, to play João Mario, now I got a real problem. But right now, our options are limited. You know, the Guedes of the world, he's not healthy. He hasn't been healthy for years. Di Maria, apagado the other day. Right? João Neves is the only guy that fucking plays all the time, and I did not understand why move this kid out of his comfort zone. So let's just be fair to Roger. And look, he hasn't gotten a lot right, but I think we're nitpicking with him as well, because we have to look at what options are available as well. And Roger and Alfredo, you know, I'm not defending Roger.
I know. The options are definitely they're definitely limited. The options. So we'll see when these guys become available, and we'll see if we'll continue to go with João Mario.
He is.
I doubt that he sits him.
You have to wait to see that, Alfred. It's João Mario and Arsenis. You know, these guys are
the first names on the sheet.
You guys remember I said it here on this podcast. I said, making like one of those Normandy references and whatever. I said Roger Schmidt's gonna die at the beach with Arsenis and João Mario. Mm-hmm. I said that like months ago. And dude, but right now, as much as I want to criticize him playing that guy, I mean, I'd rather see him than Chiquinho. So.
Yeah, I'll give you, since we're talking about Roger Schmidt, I'll give you this stat, right? Roger Schmidt has played 7 games against Futebol Clube do Porto and Sporting, 4 wins, 1 loss, 2 ties. So a favorable record for Roger Schmidt when playing these our 2 main adversaries or opponents, whatever you want to call it.
Sticking with that point, here's another question that I've had this conversation for many of my years on this planet Earth, and this is another one for the chat that's going to start things up. Because you just gave me a good stat. So far, he's played Porto and Sporting 3 times combined this year. He's got 3 victories. That's phenomenal. But the question I have for you, and this is a question I've asked myself and I've asked a lot of my friends, and we've gone back and forth over the years on this. It's very simple. Would you rather lose the 4 games in the Campeonato, the 2 against Porto, the 2 against Sporting, and be champion? Or would you rather win the 4 games against those 2 opponents, come in second per se?
No, champion every time.
Because I think people will be ballistic if Benfica were to lose the 4 games against those adversaries, right? Yeah. I mean, me, myself, I think I'd come here on this podcast and be like, well, who do we beat? We beat the Mancos.
Yeah. I mean, look, you could also make an argument that the 2 hard teams that Sporting has played so far, Atalanta, and who else did they play? Us?
Braga. They drew against Braga.
Yeah,
I think
they've struggled. You could also say that they've beaten a lot of Mancos in some games where questionable VAR calls.
They would have lost some points, but VAR was out for lunch, out for a walk a couple of times.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Carlos. Being champions is the only thing that matter.
I agree too.
So
I agree too.
I don't think that you're gonna find many people that will disagree with that. But look, a win's a win against Sporting. I think that we're all happy in the way that we won. I feel bad for the guys that walked out of the stadium before the game was over.
Why do you feel bad for them? Did anybody force?
Let it be a lesson. Let it be a lesson.
No,
they didn't get to watch the. They didn't get to watch the drama.
Yeah, I don't like this conversation because I think people should be able to do whatever they choose to do. I don't feel bad for them, I'm afraid, because nobody forced them to leave. Now, had they been forced, I would have felt bad. It was a conscious decision that they made.
Yeah.
Whether they had to catch the bus, right? I was a 28.
Missed the rush hour.
I was at a Portugal national team game for the qualification. They won against Switzerland, and like they're about to go euphoric. They're about to go crazy, and it was the last train up north. I had to run. I couldn't stay. The referee was barely putting the whistle in his mouth, and I'm out the door. I'm running,
right.
And I did catch the train, guys, just so you know. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm afraid you have to make those. Now, I don't feel bad for them. They made that decision.
Yeah, those are decisions you're gonna have to live with. Anyway, what else do we got to talk about? That's it. You got an international break now. Roger Schmidt did give the team off until Friday, as he usually does. It's no surprise to anyone but Bruno Maru. Bruno Maru. Where am I going with Bruno Maru? I know a guy that's called Bruno Maru. That's why I'm saying. But Bruno Maru, there was a surprise for.
Is it Carlos's brother?
I don't know. Maybe Carlos does have a cousin that's called Bruno Amaru. I don't know.
Speaking with Carlos says the real problem is the void at both laterals, lateral back. And then he also says it's never one single thing. In my opinion, the play of Grimaldo and to a lesser extent a better Ba is the real significant difference between last season. And I think you also have to throw in a guy that much maligned. A lot of times we didn't have positive things to say, but we all understood his value, which is Gonçalo Ramos, because I think you combine all 3 of our strikers now, and they don't equate to Gonçalo. And it wasn't that he was a phenomenal finisher, none of the above, but his work rate allowed Roger Schmidt to apply the first line of pressure, which is what he likes to do, and none of the guys you got. Now, I think Musa, out of the 3, would be the one that presses the most. I think that's why you got to start in a game like this. But yeah, I mean, let's not forget, Gonçalo Ramos, a guy that we like to harp on at times, but he brought a lot to this team. His work ethic was unequaled. I mean, we don't have anybody on this team besides maybe João Neves that plays with that same ferocity that Gonçalo Ramos did. So I just and you guys know, I don't have a problem eating crow, but I admit it. You know what I mean?
On today's papers, it looks like Benfica is interested in Malheiro, which is Boavista's right back, who has been outstanding for them. So I think there's a good chance that Benfica will pick him up in the winter transfer window, just to add depth. Whether or not he's going to be able to take the spot away from Ba, understanding that Boz had some injuries and some consistency issues also. I'd welcome some fresh blood.
And that's what I have to apologize to you and Dave about. Remember I said
Go ahead.
right at the beginning of the pod before you went live, I said I have to apologize to you guys. Because last week you guys both said that you thought Benfica would go ahead and pick up a right back, whatever, bring in a player to help strengthen the team in January. And I said the only way that happens is if we stay alive in the Europa League. If we don't, I don't believe that Benfica will go sign anyone. Now, these are rumors, it's not official, but at least it's rumors. So for that, I apologize, you guys. If it does pan out, I owe you guys another apology because I didn't think that was possible. I don't think Benfica is gonna waste money or strengthen if they don't.
Yeah, but
continue on.
you know, buying a player from Boa Vista is not spending a lot of money. I don't think.
He's a Portugal U21 international.
Send Chiquinho over there,
Swap him.
or Tankstead.
Não, tem que fica para marcar gols ao Sporting.
Who thinks that? Tankstead could like ride in the sunset, and he would be forever remembered in the Benfica history.
All right, that's what I told my buddies that they've got some Tankstead memorabilia. I said, sell your memorabilia now.
Sell it
It's never
now
gonna be
while
any
his stock
higher.
is high.
Go out on a high.
His stock is high now. Sell it now, man. Sell it now. Anyway, that's all we got that I got. I don't know if Cristiano has anything else to say or you, Dave, but that was it for me.
I got Mo texting me because for some reason he can't get on the chat.
Can't get on a chat? No.
So he says, we did hit 2 posts, so those go in. It's a different conversation. 2, I recall. The one on Di Maria, that didn't count, man. He was offsides, Mo.
No. He's talking about Di Maria outside shot that Adan put it over the bar, put it
In the second
over,
half.
and it hit the bar.
That's not hitting. Okay.
Yeah. That's when Di Maria appeared in the game.
And Adan got crazy lucky because that was a sloppy clearance.
It was.
Clear one way, the other one hit the cross. He got lucky because that would have been a P2. But okay,
Yeah.
we hit the okay.
It looked like when he dove, the ball took a different trajectory, and it came a little bit behind his dive, and he kind of had to adjust his save, and it hit the bar. But yeah, look, I think as Benfiquistas, we're all happy. We're over the moon. We were happy on Sunday. We were happy yesterday. Mo was in. Finally. He was. I was happy on Sunday. I was happy on Monday. I'm happy today. This whole freaking crying by the Lagartos about this Gonçalo Inácio showing frames and replays when Gonçalo Inácio has already apologized to the team for the foul and for what he did, right? So,
you know what a Sportingista had the galls to say to me?
What?
Oh, Gonçalo Inácio, he's played like, since he was 18 or 19, and he never shows any emotion. He never complains. I'm like,
it's public.
His own teammates didn't even say a word.
Yeah.
Like,
not even Mourinho didn't say anything.
Kawat says, I'm like, he's the captain. He's got to come and say something to the referee, right. But you didn't see him put up a fight. And then I seen a bunch of different replays. He tagged. Look, I'll say this. You want to tell me it wasn't intentional? I agree. It wasn't intentional. But he caught him.
But he takes him out, yeah.
He caught him even, he goes for the man, not for the ball. That's a yellow card every day. Every day. So, yeah, regardless of whether you intended or not, the point is that there's contact there. And at the time live, it didn't look like a lot. But then on the replay, it looks much worse on the replay than it looked live. Because he just went after him. Well, and after he slid, and obviously it was a miscalculation on his part. Young center backs.
We can't forget it's the Tugão where a foul in the third second of the opening minute in the center of the field is disputed and argued with the referee like it's the end of the world, and then on a red card they just put their head down and walk off. I mean, that could have gone for anybody, like Otamendi. You know what I mean? You can tell when a player knows he's done wrong.
Yeah.
And the dude just put his head down and walked away.
Yeah.
The coach did post-game press conferences the whole night. Never once mentioned, oh no, because he doesn't bitch about referees. I'm like, you guys have an answer for everything.
Yeah, there wasn't much of even a comment from Ruben Amorim in terms of the play. I think that whole Sporting bench and all the Sportingistas that were on on the field realized what they had done, and the players themselves. I think there was no arguing.
Would you guys think of Roger getting snappy with the questions at the post game press conference?
I think there's two opinions, and I'll tell you what I thought or what I think. I think that as a Benfica coach and as a representative of the club, right? I think that you need to remain within your normal discourse, right? I think that it's a complete valid question, right? Do you feel that the result was better than the exhibition? That was the question, and he could have simply said, "No, I thought that they were both as good, or the exhibition was good, and the exhibition got us the win." But instead, he decided to make it personal. You must be a Sporting or a Portista to be saying that. You don't think that we deserve to win? And look, and then there's the whole context behind that. Benfica came out to defend them today. That there's been Roger Schmidt has been pursued by the media, and has been targeted by the media. There's been a lot of pressure and a lot of narratives put forth by the media that have really put the pressure on Roger Schmidt. So Benfica, instead of defending them when that's happening, always waits for these moments. Then it doesn't make them look good. And then there's some other people that may think, oh, no, good for him. I'm glad that he talked back to the media and he went after a guy. For me, and understanding what Benfica means and the club's values, I think that he got a little bit out of hand in terms of what his role is and what we expect from him as a coach, as a representative of this club. But I also understand the other point of view. People that think good for him. So, that's my thoughts about it. But I think that you got to be a little bit higher than that. I don't think you have to come down to that level to get your point across.
I think it only took a season and a half for the press to kind of break.
Well,
Roger, the Portuguese press. The honeymoon is definitely over, right?
And here's the thing: when you see coaches having this type of attitudes, we saw it with Rui Vitória, we saw it with Bruno Lage. You kind of get a hint that the coach is definitely feeling the pressure, and he's probably not in a state of grace as he has been before, because he's feeling the pressure. I don't know, Cristiano. What are your thoughts, man?
On
the Roger Schmidt presser and the question and the way he responded.
I think he's feeling the pressure. I think he could have very easily answered that question. He could have just got out of it, but he's feeling the pressure. He feels that he's being targeted. But at the end of the day, he's a professional. He's getting paid to answer these questions. He doesn't have to like them. He could just sidestep them very easily. I think the club, as I think I mentioned to you in a chat earlier today, we bitch when they don't protect the players or the coach, and now we bitch them, because they come out. It looks amateur, but I'm okay. Look, I'd rather have Benfica come out and back up all the players, coaches, whatever, after any instance, than not back them up. So I don't have a problem with anything Benfica did.
Yeah,
and it's not like he said anything. It's not like he's lying. The guy could have easily been or had allegiance to Porto and Sporting, because God knows we know they want to cause any disruption. They want to see our downfall. Like, we don't even have to look too far to see the shenanigans last night at our rivals up north, right? They're in a state of disarray, it appears, at the moment. So they don't want to see a united Benfica, or they don't want to see a strong Benfica too. So any little thing, they want to get Benfica off their toes here, right? So
yeah,
I didn't mind it.
Yeah,
but again, you got to be professional too at the same time.
Yeah, and look, the curious thing about it is that if that is something that Sergio Conceição had said, nobody's Nobody's talking
No,
about it.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
he has those types of attitudes all the time. And people just, just Sergio Conceição being Sergio Conceição. But all coaches should be held in the same standard of, the club that they represent. And as the face of the club in front of the media, there's a certain standard that it would be nice if you followed. But again, when it's Sergio Conceição, it's okay. It's part of his personality. He's fiery. He feels the club, and Porto again, us against them, blah, blah, blah. But when it's Roger Schmidt, when there was a situation with Roger Schmidt and Vlaco Dimos, everybody criticized Roger Schmidt for what he said. But like I said, if it's a double standard. If it was another coach, the coach up north especially, nobody's talking about it. It's a non-story. Anyway, that's all we got for you guys. International break coming up. Benfica gets back in the action, in a couple of weeks from now?
The 25th for
against
Taça Portugal.
Yeah, the 25th. And then we have Moreirense also,
Inter.
which is...
Inter before that.
Inter and Moreirense domestically, which is a very tough game for Benfica. Moreirense has done really well. Anyway, thank you for all the Freddies that were on the chat and were active. And, we appreciate you tremendously. Thank you very much, everyone. We love you guys. Stay well. Enjoy this week off. Try to stay away from the drama. Portugal is qualified. Just enjoy yourselves, man. It's Thanksgiving here in the U.S. Also, lots of things to be thankful for. And one of the things that I'm thankful for is João Neves. Take care, everyone.